Okay. We will call this regular City Commission meeting, September 25th, 2017, to order. First, we'll have a call to order, and then we'll approve the agenda. Then we'll have our invocation from Pastor Natron Curtis. Thank you, sir, for being here tonight. We'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a presentation of our business spotlight, a Stitch in Time embroidery right here in Newberry. And then we'll have a proclamation celebrating Public Power Week from October 1st to October 7th. Then we'll move on to citizens' announcements. These are our 2-minute announcements about garage sales and non-controversial kind of stuff you just want to let the community know about. Then we have 4 items on our consent agenda: the September 7th, 2017 Emergency Commission meeting minutes, the September 13th, 2017 Special Commission meeting minutes, the power cost adjustment, the resolution 2017-32A resolution appointing the Norm D. Fugit, PA law firm as special magistrate for the city of Newberry. Item 7 is our public hearing and ordinances. We'll begin with item A, discussion and adoption with changes, if any, of the proposed operating millage rate for fiscal year 2017 to 2018. Notice of proposed property taxes, proposed operating millage rate, citizens' comments and questions. 4 is a resolution 2017-33A, resolution determining and adopting the final rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the city of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2017-2018 and providing an effective date. Item B is discussion and adoption with changes, if any, of a final operating budget, debt service budget, and budgets for the other funds for fiscal year 2017-2018. Item 1 is Resolution 2017-34, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the city's budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, providing for the final appropriations of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017, and ending September 30th, 2018, approving a proposed general city budget, setting a public hearing date, providing for publication of notice, and providing an effective date. Discussion and adoption of utility rate changes. Legislative public hearing and second readings of Ordinance 2017-27, 2017-28, and 2017-29, which I believe each of those have to be read separately into the record. Mr. Attorney, is that correct? Okay. A is legislative public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 2017-27, an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the City of Newberry, amending the prior established rates in Section 98-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. B is legislative public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 2017-28, an ordinance pertaining to water service within the City of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and amending Sections 98 through 154 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry, amending ordinances number 2016-11, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. C is legislative public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 2017-29, an ordinance pertaining to solid waste service within the City of Newberry, amending the prior Chapter 78 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry to update the rate structure and conform to the city's franchise agreement with Waste Pro, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Item D is legislative public hearing and first reading of ordinances 2017-18, 2017-19, 2017-20, 2017-21, 2017-22, 2017-23, 2017-24, 2017-25, and 2017-26 of City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain proportions of unincorporated Alachua County. Then we'll move on to agenda items. A is paid parental leave, and B is law enforcement contract. Finally, we'll end with our comments from city manager, city attorney, city clerk, commission, mayor, and citizens, and we'll adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as read?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments about the agenda? Hearing none, does the public have any comments about the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Pastor Curtis, join us at the podium, please, sir.
Well, to Mr. Mayor and all the members of this fine commission, it is an honor to be here with all the distress that is going on all over the nation and the storms that we've just recently made it through, thank God, with a little damage in most part. We're grateful to be here, and it's really refreshing to know that we're a part of a city who still realizes the importance and the power of prayer, because it's being lost in a lot of places. Let us bow our heads, let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you now for this moment. We thank you for the life that you've given us, Father, and the opportunity to thank you for another day. And now, God, as we now enter into this moment and this point of dealing with business, Father, for the city, I thank you for and pray for these who make decisions, these who have given their lives to public service. I pray that you would give them wisdom, give them knowledge, help them, God, to make decisions that will be beneficiary for this city and even for those surrounding. May, God, you continue to bless the city of Newberry with prosperity and with peace and with joy and with love. And we're so grateful and we're thankful. These things we ask now in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Curtis. All right, presentations, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, about every month, almost every month, we have a business spotlight where we feature a local business in town and try to give the commission, the audience in attendance, and those watching on TV a little more insight to the businesses here in Newberry. Tonight, I'd like to feature a Stitch in Time Embroidery and Neil and Lynn Christensen. If y'all would maybe stand up, wave. Neil and Lynn moved their business from Newport Richey, Florida to Newberry some 12 years ago, I think in 2005. They're located on Main Street, 415 Northwest 250th Street, in the McCall's building. Their business, they're a Monday through Friday 12 to 5 and Saturdays 10 to 2. And I think, their mantra, no order's too small. If you've got something you need embroidered, take it to them, they'll take care of it. I was really impressed. I was unaware they have an internship program. So they have a high school intern working for them and a college intern working with them. So it's great to see small businesses. We say we're too small to do interns here at Newberry, and you guys are making us look like maybe we should do better. We should do better. We're also very committed to the community, donating generously to band and golf, so you probably do know them well.
I have a couple comments to say.
Track and field and Operation Catnip. So thank you from city staff, from me. Thank you all for what you do for our community.
We always invite down if you wanted to say anything, Miss Lynn, but I did want to take the opportunity to just relate how much I appreciate everything you have done for Newberry High School and the community. It was about probably 8 years ago when I wanted to start a golf program at the high school, and of course you need uniforms and hats and all kinds of things, bags, and we had no money and no prospects of getting any money, and Lynn stepped up and really helped us get that program started. And since then, she's become my embroiderer for everything, so it's SGA and golf and anything else I can throw at her, archery, and I can attest to there is no order too small, because sometimes I ask her to just do one hat, and she gets it done. And one of the great things about having local businesses is you can call them up when there's a hurricane and say, I still have a golf match though. And I still need that, and they work overtime to bring it to you, and it's tremendous, and you're an asset to the community, and I do appreciate you. So thank you for everything you've ever always done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, I just wanted to say we've gone through 6 interns since we've started. Started with Katie Hodge, then we had Andrew Waldo, we had Hannah Keys, Ashlyn McLean. We currently have Avery working with us, Avery McRae, and Timothy Ashby. So it's been wonderful watching these young people grow and mature. As a matter of fact, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Avery is stepping up to the plate. So she's running machines, so I'm really proud of each and every one of them. I'm so impressed with this community. Thank you.
Got some good ones there.
Yep.
Thank you again. Commissioner McGee.
I'd also like to add that, this commission, we voted to set aside money, for the celebration for after the storm. And as soon as I put something out, Ms. Christensen, she was one of the first people to reach out to me and actually donate to that. So I really appreciate, all she does to give back to the community. And they actually rode the storm out here in Newberry at their shop, and she told me she was really impressed with how long they had power and how quickly it was restored. So just really glad to have them here in Newberry.
It's always good to hear. We've had a lot of stories about how happy people were to be in Newberry and how long the power stayed on. Thank you again. And we have a proclamation. Do I have that proclamation in front of me?
You will, and there's a brief presentation that goes in front of it. And
Okay.
So I think would it be appropriate for me to kind of go through the
Go right
presentation
ahead,
and then do
please.
the proclamation? I think it is a great segue that we talk about how the Christensens were impressed with the city of Newberry's power delivery during Hurricane Irma, and that we then move to a proclamation that's celebrating Public Power Week. So October 1st through 7th is nationally Public Power Week. There are 4,000 communities like Newberry that provide their own power service, municipalities. And interesting fact about that is that in that mix of 4,000, we're about dead in the middle. So in Florida, we're one of the smallest. We're probably smallest of 3. But nationwide, when you look at the 4,000 service providers, Newberry at 1,800 customers is about the median. Interesting, there's a lot of small communities elsewhere in the United States that are delivering power. But public power is great in many ways. You guys got to see that during Hurricane Irma. Because public power places its emphasis on reliability and on dealing with customer concerns. And so I like to think that we had such a short outage during Hurricane Irma because we're such a great electric utility provider. And if you guys will all buy that, I'm there with you. But the truth of the matter is that our reliability numbers have improved over the last 5 years because of the investment that this commission has made in our infrastructure and in tree trimming. And really, when you have overhead electric, the top 3 reasons to minimize your outages, if you'll remember from our presentation, the top 3 ways to minimize inconveniences in an overhead distribution system is tree trimming, and tree trimming. So we've funded that, we've performed that, we have a super committed staff, as you've all seen, and consequently we were able to come through Hurricane Irma relatively unscathed, especially compared to the rest of the world. Just for your information, there is a handout that's on the dais, and I'm not going to go through that, but it was a presentation put together by the FMPA that had to do with the Florida municipalities' response to Hurricane Irma. In general, municipalities restored power about 1 day quicker than co-ops and IOUs, and there's lots of reasons for that. But statewide, when you have that type of trend, people took notice, and the one exception being Key West, that just flat got leveled. They had no power system, so they're simply building a brand new power system as we speak, and I think they're about 80% restored right now. So, but anyway, this is a presentation that you can go through at your leisure that kind of shows county by county how the municipalities compare to the IOUs and the co-ops. And so, but jumping back to Public Power Week, you will always hear me say, especially when we're doing this presentation, that utility workers, linemen and utility workers in general, they truly are my heroes. And we got to see it play out a couple weeks ago. We called off staff and said it's too windy, and the lights went out like 30 seconds after we set that threshold. And we thought, oh gosh. And we had some staff members that live close to town. It still wasn't too windy for them to drive, just too windy for them to get up in a bucket. They ran, they found the problem, they rode the lines out, found the problem, and realized they could re-energize from the ground, didn't have to risk anything by getting in the bucket. And they re-energized the circuit, and then it continued to hold for another 8 hours, I believe, before we lost power. So that is nothing more than employee commitment. There's not enough salary and overtime for them to come out. They're linemen. They feel like it's important to keep the lights on. So they are my heroes. They responded before daylight the next morning. But again, too early to get up in a bucket, but we could see that the winds were subsiding. They worked tirelessly all day, made sure that every house was restored before we went home that evening, and it was just fun to see. Now, that's emergency response. During the rest of the year, you still see that same commitment. You still see our linemen going the extra mile to make sure customers are satisfied and that we have reliable power systems. So this proclamation is not just a response to our response to Hurricane Irma, and it's not just for the city of Newberry. This is a statewide thing. Florida municipality electric service providers have shown themselves, and it's a 24/7 thing where we work extremely hard to make sure that our customers are very satisfied. There's a really brief presentation that I'm going to kind of slide through up top here. Just this year's theme is Power to Grow, and I don't have a clicker. I'm sorry, I should have had a clicker. Thank you, Amy. And since I don't think this presentation changes much from year to year, I won't dwell on it. I can't even get it to move. Oh, you got the magic touch.
Let's see.
Well, tell you what, we are going to PDF this sucker, and we're... Is it working?
Well, we can do it from the back.
Okay.
I think.
Are you going to advance it from the back, Amy? Okay, there we go. All right, so that's an outline. As you have heard, we are one of 34 municipally owned just in Florida, one of 4,000 nationwide, and we have a little over 1,800 customers, residential and non-residential. A little bit of history. Newberry's electric utilities dates back all the way to 1910. And back in the day, small cities got in the business because the for-profits didn't think there was enough profit in Newberry, and they wouldn't come here, and so cities had to do it themselves. Today we have a staff of 3 linemen, an apprentice, a meter technician, plus a supervisor. So our primary infrastructure, there you go, a bunch of technical terms. Just photographs of, that's a major circuit with concrete pole. We're trying to move towards concrete poles. They withstand storms better. Capacitor bank. No, that's a recloser. So you hear us talking about, we have 4 of these reclosers. That's what one of the reclosers looks up close and personal. Here's the crew that do all that hard work for us. We're not working them hard enough. He's the brand new guy on the crew. He hadn't. We receive our one of the things that traditionally small cities didn't have a formal training program. It was just whatever you got where you worked. And in small cities, there's not enough redundancy in things, so they don't get all the skills. And so we partner with FMPA and ECG. It's a formal certificate providing. Our linemen are as well trained as anywhere in the United States, and they can go anywhere in the United States and begin work in the position of lineman. We have lots of ample equipment. We don't have tons of it, but the equipment that we do have is nice for a city of our size. And just to let you know, the city not only distributes power, but we're in the power generation business. So we own an entitlement at St. Lucie number 2, that's down near Fort Pierce. So we get some of our power from our very own power plant that we own about 0.00 something % of. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you for your patience.
I agree with the city manager's very timely and purposeful proclamation we get a chance to make here tonight. So I'll read it into the record. City of Newberry proclamation. Whereas the residents of the City of Newberry place a high value on local control over community services and therefore have chosen to operate a community-owned, locally controlled, not-for-profit electric utility. And as consumers and owners of the electric utility have a direct say in utility operations and policies. And whereas the City of Newberry electric system provides homes, businesses, social service, and local government agencies with reliable, efficient, and cost-effective electricity employing sound business practices designed to ensure the best possible service at not-for-profit rates. And whereas the City of Newberry's electric system is a valuable community asset that contributes substantially to the well-being of local residents through energy efficiency, customer service, environmental protection, economic development, and safety awareness. And whereas the City of Newberry's electric system is a dependable and trustworthy institution whose local operation provides many consumer protections and continues to make the community a better place in which to live and work. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Newberry's electric system will continue work to bring low-cost, safe, reliable energy to community homes and businesses, just as it has since 1910, the year when the utility was created to serve the residents of Newberry. And be it further resolved that the community joins hands with more than 2,000 other public power systems in the United States in the celebration of public power and recognition that the City of Newberry's electric system is good for consumers, business, the community, and the nation. And be it further resolved that I, Jordan Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby proclaim the week of October 1st through 7th, 2017, be designated as Public Power Week in order to honor the City of Newberry's electric system for its contributions to the community and to make its consumer, owners, policymakers, and employees more aware of its contributions to their well-being and how it makes their lives powerful, and invite all Newberry residents, businesses, civic groups, government agencies, and other organizations to participate. In witness whereof, I have hereto underset my hand this 25th day of September 2017. We do therefore proclaim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, we will now move on to citizens' announcements, limited to 2 minutes. Come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Marlon Day with the Alachua County Library
Welcome.
District, the Newberry Branch Manager. Wanted to let you know that FEMA will be at the library the next 3 days to assist people who had some problems during the storm and disaster applications. They'll be there 10 to 6 Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week. Next week we have a few programs coming on I'd like to make you aware of. On Monday, October 2nd, Matthew Burke is going to present 10 tips to help you stay alive when the world falls apart. It's going to be at 6:30. Next Thursday, we have our Master Gardener Edible series starting, and it's IFIS is presenting that. It's Growing Cool Seasoned Vegetables. And October the 18th, we have self-publishing on Amazon coming up here shortly.
Awesome. Good deal.
With the Lions Club, we do have a yard sale coming up on October the 7th.
All right. Thank you, sir. Lots of good things happening. Does anybody else have an announcement? Does the Main Street want to announce the Fall Festival? Do we have that date set in stone? You want to remind folks that it's coming up?
It is November 4, and people have until October 21 to submit applications.
Awesome. I know.
Of course, Newberry nonprofits don't have there's no fee for Newberry nonprofits. There's a small fee for nonprofits out of the city. And of course, regular vendors, we have a very modest $50 fee for a space.
Awesome.
Looking forward to a good one.
November 4th is the date.
November 4.
What were the times?
9 to 4.
9 to 4. Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you and Main Street. Any other citizen announcements tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion from Commissioner McGehee, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to public hearing and ordinances, and I believe I have a script again. Lots of reading tonight. Okay. We will introduce the public hearing of City of Newberry fiscal year 2017-2018 final budget. The new City of Newberry Commission convenes the public hearing on the City of Newberry fiscal year 2017-2018 final millages and final budget as required by Florida statutes, Chapter 129 and 200. Chapter 200 requires that a final hearing on the budget be preceded by a 2 to 5 day notice of that hearing. Chapter 129 requires that the Commission advertise a summary of the budget. Here are the proofs of publication. So proved that such notices have been given. A summary of the city budget has been provided for public review by means of advertisement in the Alachua County Today on Thursday, September 21st, 2017. That's the paper that I held up pursuant to these requirements. If anyone in our audience is here for the purpose of contesting their assessment, a petition for adjustment with the Value Adjustment Board should have been filed no later than 5 p.m. Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. The petition forms were available in the property appraiser's office. This evening, we will take a number of actions related to the adoption of final millages and budget. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so you may more easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizen comments will be taken following the overview of the final budget by the City Manager and Director of Finance and Administration. The City Attorney will now present an overview of the truth in millage legislation, followed by the City Manager's explanation of the final and rolled back millage rates.
Mr. Mayor, in 1980, the Florida legislature adopted what is known as the Truth in Millage legislation, or TRIM as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which the local taxing authorities' budgets and millage rates are considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all property and certifies to each taxing authority the taxable value of its property within the jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and the tentative budget. Once the property appraiser receives the information, he then sends a notice by first-class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the information from the taxing authorities as to the proposed millage rate and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice sent to the taxpayers is called the TRIM notice. The TRIM notice lists what the taxes were for the prior year, what the taxes will be if the proposed budget changes are made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. This information is listed for each taxing authority. The notice also lists all voted levies for debt service. The purpose of the TRIM notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process.
Mr. Mayor, during this year's budget process, the Commission held 4 budget workshops and 1 of 2 public hearings to publicly discuss the budget for fiscal year 2018. City staff has compiled a budget with direction from the Commission given during these meetings. The budget presented before you tonight includes the following major items based upon those discussions. We've included merit raises of up to 4% for city staff, a $25 increase in the fire assessment, creation and funding of a vehicle replacement fund, reduction in full-time staffing in recreation, no dedicated funding for general fund reserves, continued funding for renewal and replacement of existing infrastructure, funding for a law enforcement study, water and wastewater rate adjustments of 1.5%, no electric rate or mosquito control increases, and a reduction in solid waste rates. Dallas Lee, our Director of Finance and Administration, will now present an overview of the final budget for the fiscal year 2017-2018 and changes made to the final budget from the tentative budget.
Mr. Mayor, one of the requirements of the Truth in Millage legislation is to provide information about why proposed millage rates are higher or lower than the rolled back millage rates. The proposed millage for the City of Newberry is 5.9999 mils, which is 3.05% less than the rolled back rate of 6.1888 mils. Rolled back millage rate is defined as the millage rate which, exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added due to geographic boundary changes, will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied during the prior year. The rolled back millage rate in the general fund would have generated approximately $69,535 more than the proposed millage rate will. The reason that this $69,535 decreased tax revenue is proposed is due to an error in the property appraiser's assessment, which will be adjusted during October. The total city budget for fiscal year 2017-2018 is $22,961,121, which is a net decrease over the tentatively adopted fiscal year 2018 budget in the amount of $140,517. The decrease is due to an adjustment of reserves carried forward. The final general fund budget is $7,121,623, which is a net decrease over the tentatively adopted fiscal year 2018 budget in the amount of $193,084. This decrease is due to adjustments in reserves brought forward. The general fund budget also includes $2,000 in funding for a special event per the City Commission's direction. The final capital improvement fund budget is $75,000. There are no changes between the tentatively adopted budget and the proposed final budget. The final special revenue funds budget is $971,840, which is a net decrease over the tentatively adopted fiscal year 2018 budget in the amount of $99,790. This decrease is due to adjustments in reserves brought forward. The final debt service budget is $71,321, which is a net increase of $10, again due to the adjustment of reserves. The final enterprise funds budget is $14,165,447, which is a net increase of the tentatively adopted fiscal year 2018 budget in the amount of $153,295 due to an adjustment of reserves brought forward. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the changes that were made to the tentatively adopted budget presented to you on September 13, 2017. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the budget at this time.
I'd now like to invite citizens to comment on the fiscal year 2017-2018 final millage rates and final budget. Please come forward to the podium if you wish to address the commission. We do request that each speaker try to limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The hearing will continue until everyone who wishes to address the commission has had an opportunity to speak. Is anyone in the audience that would like to address the commission on the millage rates and final budget? Seeing no comments.
Mr. Mayor, the document before you, the City of Newberry fiscal year 2017-2018 final budget, includes the changes that were described earlier. Any additional adjustments to this final budget can be made by motion at this time.
Does the commission wish to make any adjustments to the proposed budget? Okay.
Florida statutes require that the name of the taxing authority, the millage rate to be levied, the rollback rate, and the percentage increase or decrease over rolled back rate be publicly announced. Accordingly, the City of Newberry City Commission has determined that a final millage rate of 5.9999 mils is necessary to fund the general city budget. The final millage rate represents a decrease of 3.05% from the rollback rate of 6.1888 mils.
Mr. Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and City Commissioners, the resolution before you is a resolution determining and adopting the final rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2017-2018 and providing an effective date. This is resolution number 2017-33, a resolution determining and adopting the final rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2017-2018 and providing an effective date. Whereas after due study and consideration, the City Commission of the City of Newberry has determined that it is in the best interest of its citizens to establish the final millage rate with the city at 5.9999 mils on each dollar valuation of the assessment roll for the city for the fiscal year 2017-2018. Whereas the gross taxable value for their operating purposes not exempt from taxation within the City of Newberry has been certified by the county property appraiser to the city as $368,107,917. Whereas in accordance with applicable law, the City of Newberry Commission has advertised its proposed millage rate and proposed general city budget and advertised a public hearing for the date for the final adoption and final millage rate and the final general city budget for September 25th, 2017. Whereas the said notice of the proposed property taxes advised the recipients of a public hearing to be conducted by the City of Newberry Commission on this date for consideration of its proposed general city budget and the proposed millage rates necessary to fund the said budget. Whereas the public hearing has been held as specified in the advertisements in accordance with applicable law, now therefore be it resolved by the people of the city of Newberry, Florida as follows. Section 1, that the rate of taxation and the annual levying of the ad valorem taxes for the fiscal year 2017-2018 on property, both real and personal, as listed and assessed on the city assessment roll of property within the corporate limits of the city of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2017-2018 is hereby made and set at 5.9999 mils on each dollar of valuation of said assessment roll B, and the same is hereby levied for the general and ordinary purposes of the city government of the city of Newberry, Florida. The final adopted millage rate is 3.05% less than the rollback rate of 6.1888. Section 3, the Director of Finance and Administration is hereby authorized and directed to transmit certified copies of this resolution as well as any other forms, documents as required by the state law, and to the Alachua County Property Appraiser, to the Alachua County Tax Collector, and the State of Florida Department of Revenue. Section 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. Adopted by an affirmative vote of the majority of a quorum present at the City Commission meeting the City of Newberry, Florida at a regular meeting the 25th day of September 2017 by the Mayor of the City of Newberry, Florida. Signature for yourself, Honorable Jordan H. Marlowe, our Mayor. Attested by the Clerk of the City Commission, City of Newberry, Judy S. Rice, our City Clerk, and approved by myself as to form and legality. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2017-33 as read by its entirety.
Okay, do I hear such a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Martin and a second from Commissioner McGehee. All those in citizen comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, we have next a resolution of the City of Newberry. This is resolution Mr. Mayor, this is Resolution 2017-34, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the city's budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, providing for the final appropriation of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017, ending September 30th, 2018, approving a proposed general city budget, providing for publication of notice, prescribing the terms and conditions and provisions with respect to supplemental appropriations and reappropriations, providing an effective date. Whereas Florida Statutes 166.241 establishes procedures and requirements for the adopting and administering of the municipal budget, and require that governing board of the City of Newberry adopt a budget for the city for each fiscal year. Whereas after due and careful consideration and study of the proposed budget for the City of Newberry, including all items that are necessary and proper as provided by law for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017, ending September 30th, 2018, the City Commission did, by motion and second, approve and adopt the budget for the said fiscal year by this resolution. Whereas said budget contained estimates of receipts and balances brought forward as part of the budget presentation, and whereas the City of Newberry Commission has complied with all conditions precedent to the adoption of the proposed general budget, and whereas the City of Newberry Commission, as of this date, adopted a resolution approving the proposed millage rate to fund the proposed general city budget, and whereas the City of Newberry has determined that the 2017-2018 final budget summary for all funds for the City of Newberry is attached to this resolution as Exhibit A, summarizes all revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $14,140,903, and reserves brought forward in the amount of $8,820,218 for total revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $22,961,121, and appropriations in the amount of $14,199,540, with reserves appropriated in the amount of $8,761,540 $581 for total appropriations of $22,961,121. Now therefore be it resolved by the people of the City of Newberry, Florida as follows. The 2017-2018 final budget of the City of Newberry, which is attached to this resolution, is hereby adopted. Section 2, the Director of Finance and Administration is hereby authorized and directed to prepare and publish all necessary and required notices and to provide copies of this resolution to all parties as may be required by law. Section 3, all funds encumbered at the close of business on the 30th day of September 2017, except as otherwise provided for, are hereby declared to be lapsed. The Director of Finance and Administration is authorized to automatically reappropriate any encumbered appropriations that relate to grants and other capital projects that have not been spent as of the 30th day of September 2017. All such reappropriations shall be designated as assigned fund balance and carried forward into the next fiscal year as additions to the respective budgets. Section 4, the city manager is hereby authorized and directed to proceed with the implementation of such services, programs, and projects provided for in the approved final budget. Such implementation is to be consistent with the provisions of the City Code of Ordinances and policies established by the City Commission in accordance with law. Section 5, in conformance with Section 166.241(4)(b) of the Florida statutes, the city manager or designee is authorized to make budget adjustments within a fund that do not change the total budget of a fund. Any budget adjustments within a fund which cancel a project, make significant reductions in the scope of work performed of a project, impacts customer service levels, shall be disclosed to the City Commission prior to the budget adjustment. Section 6, the Director of Finance and Administration shall proceed with the collection and enforcement of all revenue entitlements of the City of Newberry, including taxes levied hereby, as shall be necessary to obtain the revenue funds as provided in this resolution. Further, the Director of Finance and Administration shall be responsible for receiving the ad valorem taxes collected by the tax collector of Alachua County, Florida, at the millage rate certified to the property appraiser for the Alachua County by action of the City Commission. Section 7, the city manager or his designee are authorized to expend or contract for expenditures such funds as are necessary for the operation of the city government in accordance with the budget. Under no circumstances may a departmental appropriation be overexpended. The Director of Finance and Administration is hereby authorized to pay out the monies collected and provided for in the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget. All resolutions and parts of resolutions in conflict herewith are to the extent of the conflict hereby repealed. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. If any section, paragraph, or part of this resolution shall be declared unconstitutional or invalid, the remainder of the resolution shall not be affected thereby and shall remain in full force and effect. Adopted by the affirmative vote of the majority of the quorum present of the City Commission of the City of Newberry at its regular meeting on the 25th day of September 2017 by the Mayor of the City of Newberry, Honorable Jordan H. Marlowe. Your signature, Mr. Mayor, attested by the Clerk of the Commission. At the City of Newberry, Judy S. Rice, our City Clerk, approved by myself as to form in legality. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution number 2017-34 as read by its entirety.
Well done, Mr. Attorney. You're about halfway there. Do I hear such a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Glanzer, a second from Commissioner Martin. Does the Commission have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Does any citizens in the audience have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the next three items relate to your utilities. I will first discuss the water and wastewater ordinances and then the solid waste ordinance. The City of Newberry establishes water and wastewater rates to generate revenue sufficient to meet its operating expenses. Staff evaluates utility rates annually during the budget process and, if warranted, recommends rates be adjusted. Staff utilizes models for developing its water and wastewater rates to forecast customers, water consumption, wastewater generation, and anticipated expenses to determine whether rates will produce revenues which are sufficient to meet expenses associated with providing water and wastewater services to our residents. Many of the city's costs to provide these services are fixed or have increased, such as personnel services, fuel, repairs, etc. Staff proposes a modest increase of 1.5% in its water and wastewater rates to ensure the funds operate in a self-sustaining manner. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on water and wastewater rates.
And Mr. Mayor, now we'll have an ordinance which is numbered 2017-27, an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the city of Newberry, amending prior established rates and section 98.155 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-27 as read by title only.
I don't know what to do with one that's so short. I have a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner McGee. Does the commission have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Do any citizens have any comment on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor,
Attorney.
next item is ordinance number 2017-28, an ordinance pertaining to water service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and amending sections 98.154 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2016-11, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-28 as read by title only.
Do I hear such a motion? Commissioner Farnsworth, you haven't had one yet. Oh, okay. I got a motion from Commissioner Martin. A second from Commissioner Glanzer. Does the commission have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Commissioner Farnsworth?
To clarify, even though we're increasing the rates for some of our utilities, that it's a neutral rate of it. We're not actually making any money off this. It's like a break-even.
I don't think we've made money in years.
Nope. Just want
We
to
made like
clarify.
$1,000 like 3 years ago.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions on the floor? Do citizens have any comments about the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Matt.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, as you know, earlier this year, the Commission directed staff to issue a request for proposals for solid waste services. That request resulted in a contract with Waste Pro with lower rates than we were previously billed, which saves the average residential customer more than $60 a year. The ordinance before you cleans up our code in terms of solid waste, and it agrees the code to our current contract and adjusts the rates to our current rates.
Mr. Mayor, I have an ordinance before you on solid waste. This will be ordinance number 2017-29, an ordinance pertaining to solid waste services within the city of Newberry, amending the prior chapter 78 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry to update the rate structure and conform to the city's franchise agreement with Waste Pro, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-29 as read by title only.
Do I have such a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Does the commission have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, does the audience have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and that brings us, correct, to the end of the public hearing.
Great job, guys.
Good job, all.
Dennis.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We said it before, but it's worth repeating. You guys get better every year.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a few comments, I just want to thank the commission for your direction you provided this year, the city manager and all the department heads and staff that helped provide information in this budget. I think we have a good document, and I think it's going to be a good year. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item D, is legislative public hearing and first reading of a whole host of ordinances. I think Bryan is going to come down, Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Bryan Thomas, our Director of Planning and Economic Development, will present these brief items.
Is there any possibility of lumping them together, or do we have to go through each of these independently, individually?
Each one, Mr. Mayor.
Individually.
Yes, sir.
I assure you, Mr. Mayor, it was at the direction of legal.
Not, no doubt.
Mr. Mayor, we have, I did put together a presentation on Annexation 29. It's a total of 9 ordinances for annexation. Each grouping has to be done individually. So I'll just go through one by one. In general, this is the overall map of the city of Newberry with the general location of each of the different groupings or ordinances cover. First one, this is actually over kind of on the periphery of the city of Newberry. This is 170th Street, State Road 26. Some of you might recognize the Persimmons Farm that's on the corner there. A number of, in addition to the Persimmons Farm, a number of neighbors have requested to come in with him, which actually then built a link back to the city of Newberry for contiguity. There are 4 of the ordinances that the county has, staff has issued some objections to of varying severity, and so we'll talk about that when we get to the end of the objections. This is one of those parcels.
Commissioner Martin.
Have we, what is our process of approaching the unaffected areas at this point? Do they get a notice saying, hey, neighbors are entertaining coming into the city annex?
Mr. Mayor, at this particular stage, it's basically a 3-stage process. Number 1, the city passes an ordinance that actually annexes the parcels into the city of Newberry. At that point, there is no additional notice requirement for surrounding properties, other than we advertise in the newspaper as required by state law. We notify the county prior to the public notices being published, but there's no requirement at this point for signage or for a mail out to the adjacent properties. The next step, assuming the ordinance goes through, then the next step, we do put up signage in front of all of the parcels, or as close as possible. Some of them are difficult to get to, but we put the public notice up as far as signage. We do a mail out in agricultural areas, 1,000 feet perimeter around all of the parcels. In urban areas, 400-foot perimeter around all the parcels. And then that also goes for the rezoning when we go to change the future land use from county agricultural or whatever it is to city, and then also for the rezoning from county to city. So at that point, they get a higher level of notice.
Does that notice in any way invite them to entertain annexing in the future as well, or is it just...
It hasn't thus far, but that's not a bad idea. We could actually include an application, or a invitation rather, in the future for, especially in areas like this where we'd like to bring in more of these areas adjacent to add to the contiguity. And actually, and we had on this one, we had additional requests for annexation. Several of these properties right here are owned by the Smith family, but not all of them came in the way the properties are laid out. It would have created enclaves, and so rather than give the county something else to object to, we left those out.
I'll talk to the Smith family.
Big pardon?
I'll talk to the Smith family. Tell them who to hold out.
Well, they wanted to. I think they just didn't.
We'll go picnic with them.
And then there were a couple of large parcels up here that wanted to come in as well, but that would have created a larger enclave right here. So until we can get all of these parcels on board.
Mr. Manager.
I was just going to comment to Commissioner Martin's point. Oftentimes, it's not always a staff-initiated annexation. Oftentimes, when a property owner says we want to annex, and we say, well, in order not to create enclaves, we have to have contiguity back, and so they end up being the advocates, meeting with their neighbor property owners to ask and solicit their request to annex as well. There's a lot of people discussing this in those areas, and some want to come in and some do not.
Mr. Mayor.
Hang on one second. Commissioner Glanzer had a question.
Well, I guess I think you answered it. This one, so that doesn't become an enclave because there's a street there. I mean, this because all these had to come in. That one here isn't an enclave. I mean,
No.
Generally, no, that would
okay.
that would not.
So then the reason we can do this is because that touches there. I mean, it has to be contiguous with something in Newberry. So
Yes, ma'am.
because that's just a little.
That's correct. Which is, as we'll discuss in a little bit, part of the basis for the county's objection.
Commissioner Coleman.
Does this mean now that we can move our city limit sign now on the other side of of South 241 now, right? I'll do it personally. I'll do it.
Mr. Mayor, if the annexation were to go through, then that would be an option. You could move the signs on that side of the road.
All right.
Welcome to Newberry.
Commissioner, have any other questions before we move on with Commissioner Glanzer?
So this is a subdivision right here, right? So it's not coming in, the west part?
Parkview West. Yeah.
Park West.
Um,
So this is vacant land right there.
This is a vacant parcel. This is a vacant parcel as well. These parcels were already developed, and so they didn't choose it. I honestly do not know. I know that the impetus for this particular annexation was the owners of the Persimmons Farm. They did a lot of legwork to try to piece together a grouping that would then lead back to the city of Newberry. And then along the way, they also had some additional neighbors that decided they would like to come in as well. The owner of these two parcels, it's the same owner for these two parcels. Whether they contacted anybody in the neighborhoods, I'm not sure.
Tom Henley had a stroke. I'm sure he would have went in. He's still living in that first house there on the left.
I'm sorry, Tika. I can't tell from the colors. Is this, that's, the churches are not coming in though, right?
No, I actually, I know the pastor for the Episcopal Church and spoke with them, and they're actually potentially interested in a future round of annexation. There's also a parcel in the corner that they don't have control of or own that would need to come in as well. I did contact the Baptist Church, and they said at this time they're not interested in coming in.
They don't pay taxes anyway.
Well, I tried to explain that. I made that point that it's not going to cost you anything extra, but they just said at this time, maybe in the future.
All right. Any other? We do have 9 of these to get through. Do we have?
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
That's a big
It's
one.
y'all's meeting. We'll go on all you want.
Okay.
We ready?
The next, this is actually up in the northwest quadrant of the city. This is the largest request for annexation we have right now, 749 acres, 2 parcels in joint ownership. As you can see, the city of Newberry extends to this point here. High Springs extends down to this point. This was not one that was objected to by the county in any way. Here, this is another fairly large annexation over on the western border of the county. You've got 2 parcels in single ownership, also requesting to come into the city. Again, this was not objected to by the county. This parcel is down in the southeast quadrant of the city. This is one that the county has posed an objection to. Again, we'll talk more detail on that in a little bit. This is Southwest 30th Avenue and 186th Street, approximately 38 acres. This is on the far western side of the county, adjacent to the county line, but it's down in the southwestern quadrant. It's 2 smaller parcels, a little over 7 acres, these 2 coming in. This is also one that the county has posed an objection to. This is a single 60-acre parcel. This is the previous one that we talked about, and then this is another that has point-to-point contiguity, but that's all. And this is one of the 4 that the county has posed an objection to.
That's the trails?
This, yes, this is the trails right here, on Trails neighborhood. This is also down in the southwest quadrant, adjacent to the Watermelon Pond area. No objection from the county on this one. And then this is the smallest parcel we have. You probably recognize this is Dillon's Grove, Phase 1. This parcel and this parcel is Dillon's Grove, Phase 2. And
The previous one was the trails. I was actually thinking I was still looking.
that's the trails there.
That is the trails, okay.
Yes. And then this is Dillon's Grove here. You may remember that the owner had to purchase a small triangle here to provide road right-of-way and contiguity or connectivity between the 2 parcels. And after the fact, we discovered that corner wasn't actually in the city of Newberry, it was in the county. And so this is to annex that .22.
County's not objecting to that, right?
County is not objecting to that.
Okay, I'm just
No, sir. And then finally, the last ordinance for annexation is the honest-to-goodness elimination of an enclave that we have. One of our 41 enclaves, or however many we have now. This is over by the, adjacent to the Newberry industrial area over here, across the street from Newberry Corners and Newtown. 2.3 acres, and it is an actual totally enclosed enclave that will go away. So back to the county objections. Their first objection, we're back on that 170th and State Road 26 intersection. Their primary objection, I believe, is that it creates this pocket enclave, which we have talked with them about trying to actually eliminate those. So I do understand the objection. The recommendation I would make is to make this a little bit less objectionable. Would be at this time to remove these two parcels on the east side of 170th, which you would still have a little bit of a pocket there, but it's much less of a pocket. And then we can talk with the property owner and see if they can start contacting the adjacent neighbors and see if they're all, get them all interested in the next round or a future round of annexation to come in.
Bryan.
Sir.
I mean, that's not technically an enclave, that there is an out there, so if we're going by the definition of the definition.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it is not a statutory enclave. However, there is language in the statutes that discourages, it doesn't necessarily outright prohibit, but it does discourage the creation of these pockets. And so that's one of their primary concerns there.
Would they be okay with this at one? They'd be okay with that one?
That I don't know. We only received these the end of last week, and so haven't had a chance to get back with county staff to discuss some remedies here. But I think that at least removing these two parcels is probably going to make the overall more palatable. Now, they do have another primary objection here, which is that they don't feel that the coterminous segment here, where these two provide contiguity with the city of Newberry, are adequate. They think it's a very small segment. It's not point to point, but it's only, as they point out, 325 feet of adjacency and continuity.
Commissioner Martin.
But it does meet the statutory requirement for.
I can see some of their argument with regards to the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. What has been their take or their position historically when this is a very hard things to put together all at once to create no objection, so to speak, but I feel like moving forward with this helps sell the option of annexing later on, which will eliminate some of those things. Tell me a little bit about how their posture is.
One of the suggestions that the county staff has made and that we actually would like to follow up on is getting together and working out the outline of what they call a Part 2 interlocal agreement for annexation, which would kind of set the groundwork for annexation sort of outside the statutory guidelines in terms of the creation of enclaves. For instance, if you had a finger area like this, they might let you bring in a couple of these parcels that would technically create an enclave, but would overall be eliminating the over time, as people voluntarily annex in, it would allow you to eliminate that enclave over time. The other thing that it does is it differentiates who's going to provide services under the different scenarios. The reality is that the state statutes in terms of the creation of enclaves really apply primarily to urban settings. When you get out into the rural settings, most of the service provision is going to be provided by the same entities, regardless of whether you're in the city of Newberry or you're in the unincorporated Alachua County. They're still going to get their police protection from the sheriff's office. They're going to get their, to a large extent, I think our solid waste collection is the same. Fire protection is ultimately generally going to be the same. And so there's not a whole lot of conflict having enclaves in a rural setting like this relative to an urban setting where you could have some significant land use conflicts. But we're stuck with the state statute is what it is, and so the county staff applies the state statute as they believe it is pertinent to each of these different parcels.
Can I ask a question?
Commissioner Glanz.
So that coterminous of 325 feet, what is the difference if it's, half a mile? I mean, it meets the statute, so.
Correct. There's also, and then the third element of their objection to this particular grouping is that there is language in state statute that basically says that it needs to be compact, and so they would argue that this is not a compact configuration as well, and there's some merit to that argument. I agree.
Which utilities are out there right now?
Beg your pardon?
Which utilities
GRU.
are servicing that area?
In this area right here, I believe this is all clay territory. GRU is further to the east. They don't extend this far yet.
This,
Are they all on
they are.
Yes.
But for water and wastewater service, this is in our urban, what used to be our urban reserve area, but it's still considered City of Newberry would be the service provider when our utility infrastructure is built that far.
Bryan, what's the vehemence of the nature of these objections? Are these, we don't think this meets the definition, but we're willing to move forward? Are these
That
deal
part,
breakers?
Mr. Mayor, that part is difficult to say. I think with some modification as far as concessions, like these two parcels coming out, I think it makes it a little bit more compact. It eliminates most of the pocket they're objecting to. It's not going to do anything towards the coterminous segment being smaller than they think should be. I would recommend moving forward, recommending taking these two parcels out, and then moving forward with the remainder. Whether they would actually mount a legal challenge, though, would remain to be seen.
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, just a quick question. Between, this is first reading.
Yes.
Will we be meeting with county staff between first and second reading and be able to provide the commission with options for second reading? As in, we think that we should make a recommendation to reduce the size because the county is for sure going to file suit, or it's not that adamant, they're not that adamant about it, they're bringing it to our attention. Because the last time we had an annexation, they sent us the same letter, but it was really all bringing these issues to our attention, and they didn't object to anything when we moved forward.
I wouldn't recommend changing any. I mean, these are people who who want to come in, so I would say it's our job to kind of fight for them.
And
to
certainly,
move
Mr. Mayor,
forward.
that's been our sort of our modus operandi is if you want to come into Newberry, we'll welcome you with open arms as long as we can make the legal argument that it makes sense. And
Mr.
Works.
Attorney.
What we have done in the past with, and it's principally the county planning staff that Bryan meets with, and sometimes I'm engaged in that as well, is we advise the county that we are going to work on voluntary annexations through those areas that would kind of shore up and make the area more compact and more coterminous, or provide for greater contiguity and fill in some of the gaps in the pockets. So that's what we've done in the past to resolve the objections that the county has raised.
So would legal staff recommend moving forward with what we have, and then between first and second reading?
We can certainly do that. It's really your discretion, and if that's where you direct us to go, then certainly we'll go to the county and say, look, we'll send letters to the people for instance, in Park West. They'll all get a letter. Would you consider annexing? We have annexations, voluntary annexations that are currently ongoing, and that may resolve the county's objections, just that alone. So we certainly can propose that to the county.
Commissioner Glanz?
I would like to keep those in there. We can't put them back later. Let's put them in and have them ask us to take them out. And I like what the attorney said about sending letters, and that'll maybe appease the county.
Okay, so, Mr., we need to vote on each one of these individually.
Mr. Mayor.
So you want to read that?
Mr. Mayor, if you direct, I would propose we go ahead with the first annexation now, and then you tell me what you want to do, if you want to delete any of the areas or leave it in until second and final reading. But I'll go ahead and read it as it's drafted and
Please do
before
so.
you, and then you tell me what you want to do, Commission. This is ordinance number 2017-18, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of the unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 04271-003-000, 04275-000-000, 04275-001-000, 04275-004-000, 04275-005-000, 04275-006-000, 04275-007-000, 04276-001-000, 04287-000-000, 04287-002-000, 04369-002-000, 04370-001-000, 04370-002-000, as more specifically described in this ordinance and as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of zoning and land development, enforcement of same, providing for directions to the clerk of the commission, providing for a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-18 as read by title only upon first reading.
Okay, before we make a motion, is there any of those parcels that anyone wants to recommend we take out, or do you want to make the motion to move forward as read?
I would make a motion to move forward as read.
I have a motion to move forward as read by Commissioner Glanzer, a second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Commissioner Martin.
I would like the city attorney to counsel me on one of the properties on the north end of town. It is adjacent to a property I have bought, but it's not touching or anything like that. I don't know the owner. I've never talked with the owner. I don't feel like there's any conflict there.
Does it
What's
your
it?
property?
It does not at this time.
I don't think you have a conflict, and it certainly would not. I don't believe you have a conflict, and I do not believe it would inure to your private gain in any way, so I believe you'll be able to vote on it.
Fair enough.
Any other comments on the motion on the floor? Citizens have any comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney, you want to, Mr. Bryan, you want to lead us through 2017 dash? Are we going? Are we now?
There were four objections.
Four
I'd
objections.
Go through those first.
Go through those first.
Get those out of the way, and
Let's do that. I like it.
the others will go faster because there's far fewer properties involved. So, county objection number 2. This is an existing pocket, finger, enclave, however you want to reference it, which is open to the south here on Southwest 30th Avenue. These two parcels have requested to come in. Again, it's a similar situation to what we had with the Davis property on State Road 26 when we had a grouping south of the State Road. Here you've got a grouping north of 30th Avenue. Regardless, they don't have a natural barrier. The roadway still provides access. You do have to cross the city of Newberry already annexed property on Southwest 30th at some point or another to access it, or presumably 186th. This again is one that overall, if you look at this entire area as an existing pocket, then certainly this is chipping away at eliminating that pocket over time through voluntary annexation. There's quite a few parcels in here that eventually over time would need to come in to eliminate it completely. but you've got to start somewhere and chip away somewhere. This is one I would recommend that we keep in, similar to the other. I think that it is one of those marginal statutory questionable areas.
I'm sensing the commission is going to have the same response to most of these objections. Let's move forward, and between first and second reading, we'll see if there's anything that anyone is really concerned with substantially. But if these are all people who are voluntarily trying to annex in, I think we need to push.
Likewise, objection number 3 is on the same slide here. The objection here is that you don't have substantial contiguity, you only have a small point-to-point contiguity. And so they find it objectionable from that point, and also compactness. But again, if you look at the totality of this pocket and look at that as one piece in that pocket that we're chipping away and getting rid of, then it makes sense to try to at least keep it in. And then the final objection is over on the far western edge of the county, the southwest quadrant. The objection here is that it creates this isolated area, and that it may not meet the state's reasonably compact requirement. The primary concern is that as the area around it continues to annex, that there could be some sort of conflict in land use between what the county allows and what the city allows. I think that's a minimal argument at best, just because it's a small parcel, it's already residential in nature, agricultural residential in nature, as are the surrounding area. The likelihood that there's going to be a land use conflict, I think, is very minimal.
That concludes the county's objections.
That's the conclusion of the objections, yes, sir.
Okay, does the commission feel comfortable with moving forward with the same logic that we used with the first one? We'll move forward, so we can just go back to 2017-19 now, read them all in, and if there's any significant county objections that we think will be problematic between the first and second reading, you guys will bring that back to us by the time of the second reading.
We should
So we don't need to bounce around between these.
So we're just in fairness, to try to get on the county staff schedule back and forth, we should probably anticipate, rather than going to the first meeting in October, probably at earliest would be the second meeting in October for the second reading, just so that we have enough time to hash out these issues with the county.
Fair enough. Okay, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance 2017-19, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of the unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 01676-000-000, 01678-000-000, as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, provided for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing severability clause, and providing immediate effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-19 as read by title only upon first reading.
Do I hear a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner McGehee. Any conversation on the motion on the floor? Any conversation from the audience on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Attorney?
Ordinance number 2017-20, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 01832-003-000, 01832-004-000, as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective immediate date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2017-20 as read by title only upon first reading.
Do I have that motion? Motion by Commissioner Martin. Second by Commissioner Farnsworth. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, any discussion from the audience on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance 2017-21, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 04443-001-000, 04443-000-000, as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-21 upon its first reading by title only.
Do I hear that motion?
I make a motion to approve it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Glanzer, second by Commissioner Martin. Any conversation on the motion on the floor? Does citizens have any conversation on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Attorney.
Ordinance number 2017-22, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of the unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel numbers 02587-001-005, 02587-001-007, as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-22 as read by title only upon first reading.
Do I hear that motion?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Martin, a second by Commissioner McGehee. Any conversation on the motion? Any conversation from the audience on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Mr. Attorney.
Ordinance number 2017-23, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 04455-001-000, as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-23 upon its first reading by title only.
Do I hear a motion? Motion by Commissioner Martin.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Glanzer. Any conversation on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. Any citizen comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Once again, Mr. Attorney.
Ordinance number 2017-24, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, and annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 02667-011-000, as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. Appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2017-24 upon its first reading by title only.
Do I hear such a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any conversation on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. Any citizen comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney, 2 to go.
Ordinance number 2017-25, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 04392-000-000, as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-25 as read by title only upon its first reading.
Do I have that motion? Commissioner Farnsworth made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Glanzer. Any conversation on the motion on the floor? Come on, it's the penultimate one. Any motion, any conversation out of the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
One more.
One more.
Ordinance number 2017-26, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County that includes tax parcel number 01910-000-000 as more specifically described in this ordinance, as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to Section 171.044 of the Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-26 upon its first reading by title only.
Do I hear a motion?
So
Commissioner Martin made a motion. Commissioner Coleman made a second. Do I have any conversation, comment on the motion on the floor? Any citizen comment on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Well done, all. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. That was a lot of reading. We will now move on to our agenda items. Chair would like to note, moving into our conversation of paid parental leave, that he's going to ruin my equation there. We had 5 men and 5 women in the audience, which I thought would add an interesting hitch to this. But now we have 5 women and 4 men. Bryan, will you please
Would you like me to go get him back?
take us through
County staff.
counting staff? Yes.
Well, yeah.
Bryan, are you leading us through? I'm sorry. It's getting late.
Bryan can.
Matt, are you leading us through
I have a
this?
very brief, to go over the presentation we gave last time, just very briefly.
We like that word.
Well, remember it's brief with an asterisk when it's me. Mr. Mayor and Commission, at the August 14th meeting, the Commission tabled this item, so we're bringing it back for discussion. I'll be brief in my presentation, but if you have any questions, please let me know. What are the benefits of a paid parental leave policy, or a PPL? 2 of the biggest benefits are to the city as an employer are the improvement of parent retention and as a recruitment tool. In personal benefits to the new parents, PPL policies have been shown to help infant mortality rates, and there are also benefits to women who receive the benefit being less likely to suffer from mental health issues post-birth of a child. PPL also helps increase loyalty and morale amongst employees and provides a boost to productivity of new employees as they are given time to recoup from childbirth, adoption, or placement instead of trying to balance both a newborn, foster, and work right away. The current status of paid parental leave is that nationwide only about 13% of private employers offer PPL. However, among larger corporations, the percentage is higher. Globally, all but 2 countries mandate some sort of paid parental leave. A small but rapidly growing number of state and local governments are adopting PPL in the last few years, citing reasons such as a desire to keep moms in the workforce to attract younger workers to government and service careers. Florida public entities noted here have adopted PPL policies in the last few years. This list is by no means exhaustive, and more local agencies are adopting policies every month. A review of the PPL policies summarized on this slide indicates that currently the most common benefit duration offered is 6 weeks of pay. State and local governments around the country have begun offering paid parental leave benefits as well, including those noted here. This slide shows that state and local agencies with varying policy requirements, duration, percentages of pay, and eligibility. In your packet was a fairly thorough listing of PPL throughout the country. In reviewing all the policies sampled, staff noted several similarities. Employees generally must have worked for the organization for at least 1 year, and the leave must run concurrently with FMLA. In addition to the birth of a child, leave is also provided for the adoption of a child, placement of a foster child, or in loco parentis or guardianship placement. Most agencies offer 100% of a full-time employee's base salary for the duration, while others offer a reduced percentage per 2-week segment of leave, and some additionally offer shorter leave for non-primary caregivers. This slide shows the city's current leave policies offered. While PPL is not a specific policy at this point, it is covered underneath the Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, as a job-protected benefit, and pay is subject to accrued sick and vacation leave balances. Employees who may not have enough leave are allowed to request other employees donate their time to them to cover any lapses in pay. However, donations are completely voluntary. Additionally, the city does offer voluntary employee-paid short-term disability policy. New hired employees begin accruing vacation and sick time immediately and earn 80 hours of vacation and 96 hours of sick leave in their first year, for a total of 176 hours or 4.5 weeks. FMLA data shows the average number of leave hours taken for a birth, adoption, or replacement of a foster child is 240.5 hours, or about 6 weeks. If the Commission were to implement a PPL benefit, there would be a number of policy issues to be considered. One of these is the duration of the benefit. Benefits vary, typically ranging from 3 to 12 weeks, with 6 being the most common. Other issues include whether the leave is to be taken on a consecutive or intermittent basis, primary and non-primary caregivers. Some policies offer reduced duration for non-primary or secondary caregivers, and whether or not the PPL should run concurrently with FMLA. Staff notes that most policies typically do run concurrently with FMLA. Another consideration is compensation. As noted previously, compensation varies between different agencies, with 100% being the most common, or reducing percentage for compensation for each 2-week period, 100% the first 2 weeks, 75% the next 2 weeks, and 50% after that. If directed to implement the benefit, the policy would take effect with all non-bargaining unit employees as soon as the Commission adopted the policy. The city would need to notice its bargaining units, and the policy may be subject to collective bargaining process. The cost of offering a paid parental leave benefit is difficult to predict, and staff would recommend tracking the actual costs associated with the policy. In an attempt to make a ballpark estimate, staff calculated the average weekly salary and benefit cost for a full-time employee aged 45 and below and multiplied this figure by the average number of parental leave incidences per year according to FMLA data. If the Commission were to adopt a policy with a reduced percentage of pay per 2-week increments, the direct cost is estimated to range between $1,600 and $2,200 per year, depending on the duration of leave offered. If the policy were to provide 100% of the base salary, the estimated cost range between $2,200 and $4,300 per year.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The Commission has already budgeted and voted on the 6 weeks at 32. Is that what we put into the budget?
It is in the budget, yes.
It is in the budget. So the conversation here tonight is just what are these policy considerations? The money's already in the budget that we already voted on earlier tonight.
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity's sake.
In addition to the direct PPL costs, there may be other costs associated with the benefit. Overtime and temporary personnel costs may increase to cover an employee on leave and would vary department to department. Currently, most departments try to absorb the work left behind by employees on extended leave and distribute it to other employees. Therefore, there may be a decrease in overall productivity while job duties are shifted to other staffers. However, it should be noted that both of these cost issues are already occur when employees are out for leave, given they are currently allowed the 12 weeks of FMLA. The deferring of sick and vacation leave would also that would have to be used to cover FMLA, but is no longer needed or in addition to it, would be payable in the future to the employee as either time off benefit or a cash benefit at the end of their tenure. Another consideration may be the payout liability for employees who do not return. Staff proposes in its draft policy that employees who leave and do not return must pay back any PPL that they received. Other considerations include the cost increase as city workers are replaced by younger employees, and depending on the policy adopted, potential pushback from employees who do not qualify. To recap, we are looking for direction on who is eligible, what the duration of the benefit is, what is the compensation of the benefit. Staff has included a draft policy in your packet that has some of the nuts and bolts of the policy, and once we receive direction, we will update the policy and bring it back to you with a resolution for adoption. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Before the Commission embarks on this conversation, I know this says policy direction, but it would seem to me that the Commission's already budgeted the money and established the policy that they want to see a PBL program in place. And a lot of these policy considerations seem to me to be encroaching upon management. So the Commission can go about it any way that they want, but there's a lot of a lot of minute details in this conversation that seem to me in other areas we say we want to have this program, and we ask management to implement the program and come back, and then after 6 months, a year, we do an autopsy on it and we see if we like it and we tweak it from there. And that is certainly, I think, at your discretion, and the city manager can speak for himself if he wants to any specific questions from the commission. But it also, I just wanted to throw that out there, that you've set the policy that you want a PBL, and you've said this is how much money you have. It's certainly within your discretion to simply turn to the city manager and say, institute that policy. Commissioner Glanzer.
That was going to be my question. Can we just direct staff to do it? We've budgeted the money. How much will it give us? You know, that's your business, I think, to do it. So that would be my comment.
Commissioner Martin.
I'm fine leaving most of the 10,000-foot level stuff to the city manager. I'd only try to provide the overarching direction that it impact the city citizens the least amount, and impact the adjacent staff that may end up absorbing some of this work as little as possible.
Dang, man, I think it's terrible.
I know we really got to work on Commissioner Martin's. That's the one I think that you're always having to unplug yours and
Your
cut
new
it
budget
off.
provides.
The
money.
new budget
Budget
provides.
getting new ones.
Commissioner Coleman.
I 100% agree with Commissioner Martin. Especially the last thing he said, you know, what the least amount of friction here, because we know that our other employees are going to have to take up the slack. But I wholeheartedly just let's let the city manager handle this.
We could implement a contraceptive program, perhaps.
There.
Lessen the.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
One question I have is, if the amount spent goes over what we have budgeted, where does that money come from? Or you just say, we have this much money and once that's gone, it's gone?
I believe we're anticipating 0.67 bursts per year. We're
I believe it's 0.64. But yes.
0.64, so we're gonna,
Two legs and arm.
somebody that is expecting a child is gonna have to 0.36% push it off till next fiscal year. No, it's a for the budgeted amount, if we have the full thing, we would still be in just a noise range that would be acceptable. Some years, you know, when we get to the end of the budget, sometimes we say that our expenditures exceeded our expenses in one particular GL account by $8,000, but that's okay because of this, because overall we didn't. If we have an overrun, even a worst-case overrun, a 50% overrun would be $1,500, and in the entirety of the city's budget, it would wash out.
Mr. Mayor, in addition to the city manager's comments, this is really salaries you would be paying anyways. If this employee wasn't on paid parental leave, they'd be at work getting paid their salary. So most of it's still budgeted. A lot of what this funding would go to would be hiring a temp if we needed it, or paying overtime if we needed it, which, like I mentioned in my presentation, a lot of times we don't need.
Does this apply to commissioners also?
You planning on? Got some plans you want? You make an announcement here tonight, sir?
Anything's possible.
Mr. Mayor, that's part of the policy, and with direction, we could make it as broad or as not broad as need be.
We will gladly pay your hourly rate, your commissioner hourly rate, for as long as you'd like.
Okay, so you've got some over-sweeping broad generalizations. Staff feels comfortable developing a policy. We'll implement it for a year, see how it goes. If we hear any problems, we can come back. I think that's truly the wisest course. We could spend the rest of the night arguing over these details, and I think would be clearly into manager's prerogative at that point. So do we need a motion to move towards that, or just the head nod to say?
I just took that as direction. We'll develop a policy.
You guys develop the policy, implement it, and if there's a problem with it, we'll address it when there's a problem.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that the policy, once we finalize it, will come back for commission adoption. I don't
At
think
that
I can
point.
simply implement it. I think it has to be come back, but we'll fill in all the blanks with our proposed, policy and bring it in for adoption, and then we'll do the 1-year autopsy.
All right. Everybody comfortable with that? Then we will move on to our law enforcement contract. Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, we received today from the Sheriff's Office 2 original agreements for law enforcement services between the city and the City of Newberry and Alachua County Sheriff's Office. As you'll recollect from the last meeting, we had the Sheriff's Office contract on the agenda, and it was motioned and approved to enter into the contract with the Sheriff's Office. There is one item that is a change in paragraph 16, which is the term, and that relates to a 90-day continuation period, which was somewhat out of ordinary for these types of agreements. City staff and the sheriff's staff agreed to delete that provision from the clause, and so this document's in front of you for approval tonight. And the appropriate motion would be for the appropriate city officials to enter into the agreement for law enforcement services between the City of Newberry and Alachua County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, so we've already voted on this before. We had a couple of T's to cross and I's to dot in the contract. We cleaned up the language. The concept has already been approved. I have a motion to approve the contract.
Second.
I have a second to approve the contract. Is there any conversation on the contract? Okay, hearing Commissioner Coleman.
I'm going to vote for this because of these people. I haven't voiced my opinion yet, but now I am, okay? I don't feel that the sheriff treated us right. I don't like the way it was handled, but because of our fine deputies here, I am going to vote yes on this, but it's nothing for this. It's not because of our sheriff, I can tell you that. It's for our citizens and our fine deputies.
Thank you, sir. Any other commissioners have any comment on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, does the public have any comment on the motions on the floor? The motion on the floor. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right. Well done. Okay. Thank y'all for coming. Comments, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief update on storm debris. I think most of the other storm issues are gone. We are compiling information for a submittal to FEMA so that we can seek reimbursement for our preparation and for our response to the storm. Storm debris is ongoing. So for some clarification, all storm debris collected in Newberry will be collected by Newberry staff. So Waste Pro is not collecting that. In order to get reimbursement for that, you have to have the contract in place with the agreed upon rates through a competitive process pre-storm. And we didn't fulfill that requirement. So we can either pay a contractor to take it and not get reimbursed, or we can pick it up with our own staff and we will be reimbursed. And so Jamie's evaluated it. He says he can handle it. We started a week ago. I think we are more than halfway through. We finished up the northeast section of town today. We were in Newberry Hills, and we moved over to the southwest section of town, just south of State Road 26 and west of State Road 45, working in that area. And I think we anticipate finishing up this first sweep this week. Usually, we'd be lucky if we didn't have to have a second sweep. Usually, people see us picking up and say, oh yeah, and they bring their stuff out just after the truck leaves, and we'll make a second pass. We may give it a week or two in between to make sure everybody's done it, and then we'll make that second pass through the city and go from there. That FEMA only reimburses and authorizes collection of residentially generated storm debris. So no businesses are required to determine their own source of disposal for storm debris. Storm debris also is tree debris. That means no storm damage, no leftover furniture, no flood damaged furniture, that would be a separate pile, but we didn't have any of those types of damages in Newberry. That would be a separate pile. And Waste Pro continues its normal collection. So if you have normal yard waste that meets the requirements, 40 pounds, 4 yards, 4 foot in length, then just set that curbside separate, and Waste Pro is collecting that every Wednesday. And they missed the 1 week of the storm, but they should have been back at it last week, and we expect them in Wednesday of this week. So that's related to storm debris. If anyone has questions, direct them to our Facebook account, our website, or have them call City Hall. We'll be happy to handle those calls. Last Tuesday, we met with the Alachua County delegation, the Florida elected legislature, and we reviewed the 6 items that y'all put forth, and 2 of them were real conversation makers. And I had a lot of, and what Newberry said. One was supporting the school board in their request for additional funding that y'all suggested that we keep in our top 6, and the second was to support legislation that exempts municipalities and charter counties from regulation, from countywide regulation that for areas that are also regulated at the state level. So great choices by the board, and like I said, there's a lot of other cities were paying attention, asked me to forward our information to them, and I'm hopeful that this is going to be on tomorrow night's Alachua County League of Cities meeting on their agenda for discussion. We are conducting a career fair. We've done a couple of these now. I believe this will be our 3rd one. This is very much aimed at career vocation. We typically do it in partnership with Santa Fe College. This year we've also added Gateway College and Marion Technical College. They're going to come up and talk about programs they offer. We're partnering with Newberry High School. We've been doing it at the community center, and we've seen good turnout, but very, very low turnout in high school aged residents, and think that that's a primary target for us. So we got with Newberry High School, and they graciously agreed to host, and they're partnering with us, and so that's happening on the 5th of October. It's during a school day from 9 in the morning to 11. We have got not a final, but a final draft of our broadband feasibility study. As soon as we can get through that, I'm expecting a presentation at one of the October meetings. Sad note, one of our employees, Jamie Jones, his father passed away over the weekend. It was not unexpected. That's part of what brought Jamie back to this part of Florida. But nonetheless, it's tough. And so I've sent some emails today that give some information about wind viewings and services, and the city's trying to make sure we do for Jamie like we do for all employees, but they're all family, and so we want to make sure we support him through this time. Received a notice today from Representative Chuck Clemens that the CRA elimination bill from last year has already been refiled. So we're still getting into the details of whether it's the exact, what they call the super death for CRAs, or whether it's a modified version that may give us a chance at a CRA. But we're going to be keeping a very close eye on that and working with Representative Clemens to make sure that we don't get shut out on CRAs. And the county, just a reminder, the county is planning a workshop to discuss their stormwater manual and their wetlands regulations. That's one of those countywide ordinances that is being proposed. The county has still not revealed the cards on whether they're going to attempt to adopt that countywide or just an unincorporated Alachua County. But when those workshops come, I'll be glad to get the information out there, and I think it's going to take a strong showing by all residents of incorporated portions of Alachua County to voice their objections to the County Board of Commissions, and see if we can't get that for unincorporated areas only. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney? Madam Clerk? Thank you. Commissioner Coleman?
I got 2 things. Thoughts and prayers to Jamie Jones and his family, the passing of his dad. And number 2, our 8-1 girls volleyball team beat Keystone Heights tonight in 3 sets on their quest to go play in the state championship. If you haven't seen these girls play, it's worth going out there and watching these girls. I mean, they play travel ball together. They're like sisters. I mean, they're always together. It's unbelievable how these girls play. So if you haven't went out and watched them, I'm telling you guys, it's worth it. That's it.
Commissioner McGee.
Do we have an update on the water expansion? Do we?
Have a contract that's ready to go, have 6 out of 7 easements in hand, 7th easement is promised. And I did not follow up on it today, but every working day for the last 30 days, I have sent an email. So today was my big miss, but
So we're close.
the city attorney probably, I mean, it was gotten down to a duel between attorneys. Did we?
I think the last language that I saw, it was okay.
It was
So
okay, so
I think
now
we're
we're just
good.
waiting for the document to come executed. Contractor, I mentioned that the contractor had asked for a deferral. Contractor advised us last week that they're good to go. As soon as we get that last easement, we'll get them working.
Awesome. And then the only other thing I had is the post-Irma celebration. Had a group of volunteers that met this last week. We have a tentative date of Thursday, November 16th. The Norfleets have offered the Countryway Town Square. I thought that would be kind of a nice thing since the homecoming kickoff,
yeah,
got canceled. They were gracious enough to offer their venue. We do have a couple of other kind of backups, if the weather looks like it's gonna be an issue. But anyone that's wanting to donate or to volunteer, get in touch with me, and I will put you to work. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Looking forward to that. Commissioner Farnsworth. Commissioner Martin?
Yes. We got an email about the lady in newer part of Newberry Oaks with the weeds and things along her fence line that backs up to the retention pond. Do you just check into that and make sure that we're still paying attention to that?
The last response I'd gotten was that we were aware of it. It was on our list, but we were going to push it back to after we got the storm debris and finish responding to sinkholes and things related to Irma, and then we'd get right back on it.
Okay. The Cub Scouts will be having a meeting on Thursday at 6 p.m. over at the Newberry Elementary Cafeteria. Registration's $10. There are additional fees, of course, but that's just the registration fee. I also wanted to, where was it? I'll follow up, sidebar that when I remember and can find it. But I did want to commend the mayor and really everybody over at the NHS to be able to pull off the homecoming deal last week. I'm sure you're going to talk about it a little bit about it, but I was just really impressed. A lot of times I know we kind of beat up on younger kids for not having a sense of community all the time or being a little bit head in the sand, but I was very impressed with the level of how many kids at the high school just have such a good time with each other. I didn't really see a whole lot of factions, but they all had a really good time. It just seems like a wonderful group of kids, and I think it is a testament to our town and our ongoing effort to be who we are, and I'm just very gracious for them. That's all I have.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Glanzer.
Excuse me. If citizens haven't already gotten them, I got mine today. Your new recycle bins, they're beautiful. They're almost as big as our green big garbage cans. And I don't know about you, but at the end of every week, my recycle bin is pregnant, and I can never have enough room. But anyway, the new what? Yeah, I can get PPL for my recycling. So anyway, that's great, and thank you to Waste Pro for providing those. And also, I wanted to thank the crew for doing the great job at debris pickup. I've had a lot of citizens thank us for doing that because a lot of people didn't even know we did it. The other thing, I skipped over a consent agenda. I wanted to just make a comment that we now have a magistrate, Norm Fugate, which means I think our code enforcement can have some teeth now. So have hope, citizens, that if you make a complaint or there are code violations, they will be taken care of now, I guess. That's what they're saying. So that is all I have to say.
Commissioner Coleman.
For some reason, the North Central Florida Regional Planning has sent me 3 of these. This right here is the North Central Florida Regional Planning Council directory, and it has every college, every school, everything for North Central Florida, every phone number you want. First come, first serve. Here you go. Anybody who wants it can have it. And I'm telling you,
It's a mad rush. No,
anybody that wants it, there we go.
there
See?
you go. One. He's got one left, folks. Don't There you go. You got another taker in the back for the second copy. I appreciate Commissioner Martin's comments. That homecoming is a community event. It takes the whole town to come out and pull that off, especially when you miss 6 days of school to a hurricane and people's lives are distracted and they got other things that are in many ways more important and more immediate to focus on. But homecoming brings the town together. We're the last town in Alachua County, one of the last towns in the whole state that has homecoming parade that really does all of those events the way that we keep the traditions alive. So it's an important thing to do it, to recognize it. There's businesses that always help. We like to thank the Frozen Berry. They always help judge. RPM Auto, the Garden Club, the Watermelon Festival. Folks always come out and help us. Commissioner Martin came and judged. And that's, it's always, I always have more people volunteering to help than we actually have spots. And that's a great problem to have. It's just like the hurricane. We had so many people volunteering to help, and so to me, it's just another mark of this town, another mark of our community. And I agree with everything the Commissioner Martin said. That, it's a special place to teach our kids, because you guys have raised good human beings, and they're a pleasure to work with, and they're responsible, and they work hard, and they just get it done. They didn't balk at the hurricane. They came in 1 week to go, Mr. Marlowe. We'll do it. We got a parade to put on, a show to put on. Let's do it. So it was one for the books, and it'll certainly go down in memory. And I'm glad, because it works out. This is the last one for the seniors, so I'm glad it all worked out for them. And thrilling win in triple overtime with a 2-point conversion. So what a way to bring it all home. So and then we had the Gators do the same thing. So that's the end of my comments. Any citizens have any comments?
Speaking of the
They're
Gators.
hurting my heart these days lately. I'm
Well,
having problems.
That was a heck of a football game, yes. But today, the Florida Gator volleyball team was ranked #1 in the nation.
Wow, congratulations. All right. I saw where the Gator Athletic Department put out a Florida Gator shirt in tribute to Irma, and if you buy that shirt, they make a significant contribution. Might be the whole thing goes to hurricane relief. So good job, UF. Way to help out. Any other citizen comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned.